They didn't just wage war with guns and tanks, they waged it with spells, relics, and ancient forces buried in time. Deep inside icy mountains, hidden castles, and forgotten tunnels, Nazi Germany carried out supernatural missions so disturbing, they were erased from official records. From secret rituals to cursed artifacts, these stories were never meant to reach the public. But today, we're unsealing them, one by one. These are the 5 secret Nazi rituals that tried to awaken unnatural powers. Welcome to Unsolved Archives, where we delve into the hidden, the mysterious, and the unanswered. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could be the key to unlocking the truth. The Black Sun and the Hollow Earth Base. In the frozen stillness of Antarctica, beneath miles of ancient ice and shifting storms, a myth has persisted for decades, a hidden Nazi base built not just to survive the war, but to unlock secrets buried before recorded time. The tale begins in the early 1940s, when reports surfaced of an elite SS scientific team being dispatched to Queen Maud Land, a frozen, desolate stretch of the Antarctic coast. They called the region New Schwabenland, and officially, they were there for meteorological research and whaling routes. Unofficially, they were hunting something far more bizarre, an entrance to the hollow earth. The theory of a hollow earth had long been ridiculed by mainstream science, but in Nazi Germany, pseudoscience and occult philosophy often intertwined. The Thule Society, a mystical group of aristocrats and thinkers who played a role in Hitler's early rise, had been obsessed with the idea that ancient superbeings, Hyperborean ancestors of the Aryan race, had retreated to the inner earth to escape cataclysms on the surface. They believed these beings still lived beneath, guarding ancient technologies that could rewrite the laws of nature. When the SS launched Expedition Schwabenland in 1938, they were not merely mapping the ice, they were allegedly installing markers, claiming land, and searching for geological anomalies. Eyewitness accounts from captured U-boat crewmen would later claim that submarines had been loaded with materials and vanished into the southern oceans after Germany's official surrender in 1945. These U-boats, according to their sworn testimony, never returned, not to Germany, not to Argentina, nowhere traceable. They carried engineers, scientists, and crates marked with ancient runes, bound for a location deep in the south. Decades later, declassified British intelligence files referenced strange activity near the South Pole. Unusual heat signatures beneath the ice, unmarked aircraft on radar, and anomalous magnetic readings puzzled early Cold War satellites. The CIA also quietly noted that during Operation High Jump in 1947, an official American naval exercise to Antarctica led by Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, the U.S. Navy cut their mission short after encountering hostile opposition. Byrd's personal journal, whose authenticity has long been debated, described advanced aerial crafts that moved with impossible speed, flying out of holes in the ice. Skeptics call this fantasy. But something very real happened in the skies that year. Byrd gave a strange interview in Chile, where he claimed the United States must be prepared to defend itself against flying objects that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. That interview was censored in U.S. press. In the decades following the war, theories about a Nazi hollow earth base only grew louder. German scientists who were absorbed into American and Soviet programs during Operation Paperclip spoke cautiously of Project Krone, a rumored plan to establish a final outpost of the Reich, safe from atomic bombs and international scrutiny. Some whispered of Base 211, an underground city beneath the Antarctic ice, powered by geothermal energy and guarded by strange atmospheric phenomena. Locals in Tierra del Fuego spoke of German-speaking men seen in the southern seas, long after the war was over. Modern explorers, driven by obsession or curiosity, have claimed to find satellite anomalies near the Queen Maud region, odd circular formations in the snow, heat plumes with no volcanic source, and radar shadows that suggest hollow spaces where there should be solid ice. One expedition in the 1990s mysteriously vanished after releasing footage showing a metallic structure partially exposed by melting ice. The video ended with static. To add to the mystery, the symbol of the Black Sun, a 12-armed radial swastika carved into the floor of Wewelsburg Castle, has been found etched into rocks and caverns in locations never formally mapped. This esoteric symbol, tied to SS occult rituals, was said to represent an infinite source of energy and time. Occultists believed it to be the true heart of the earth, a source of ancient power sealed away when man turned toward materialism. Some argue that the base was not meant for war, but for escape, an exodus for those who believed the Reich would rise again in a new age. A place where twisted ideologies and dark sciences could evolve beyond scrutiny. Others take a more terrifying stance, that contact was made. That deep beneath the ice, the SS found something, and made a pact. These theories remain shrouded in frost and secrecy. Scientists continue to reject the hollow Earth model, and the notion of surviving Nazi colonies beneath the ice remains relegated to fringe conspiracies. But something strange clings to the poles, a sense that the world is not yet fully mapped, and that mankind is not alone on its surface. When questioned about these stories, a retired intelligence officer once said cryptically, "There are still places no satellite has ever truly seen. The ice hides things. That's what it's best at." Project Hexenhammer, The Witch Files of Heinrich Himmler. When most people think of Nazi Germany's horrors, they picture tanks, swastikas, and gas chambers. But few know that one of the regime's most powerful men spent years obsessed with magic, witches, and the supernatural. His name was Heinrich Himmler, and hidden beneath the bureaucratic machinery of the SS was a terrifying and surreal ambition, to harness the powers of ancient witchcraft and rewrite history through the arcane. This obsession gave birth to a secret program known as Project Hexenhammer, or the Witch Hammer Project. Himmler was not just a brutal administrator of genocide, he was also a true believer in Germanic mysticism. He viewed modern Christianity as a corrupting influence on the pure Aryan bloodline and believed that the ancient pagan traditions of pre-Christian Europe held the key to spiritual and racial power. Central to this belief was the idea that the Catholic Church had exterminated thousands of wise women in witch trials, destroying a lineage of magical and racial knowledge. Himmler wanted that knowledge back. To recover it, he founded a department within the SS known as the Hexen Sonderauftrag, the Witches' Special Task Force. Based in a vast archive inside the SS headquarters, this division was tasked with compiling every historical record of witch trials across Europe, particularly in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Over 33,000 documents were collected: trial transcripts, torture confessions, local folklore, execution orders. These were cross-referenced in the hopes of identifying patterns, names, lineages, rituals. Himmler believed that buried within these medieval records were encrypted codes left behind by ancient priestesses. According to internal memos uncovered after the war, Project Hexenhammer's goals were not just archaeological. They intended to recreate the rituals lost to time, rituals they believed could connect them to other realms or unleash hidden energies. Rumors began to swirl about dark experiments taking place in remote SS facilities in the Harz Mountains. Local villagers reported strange lights in the forest, odd hums in the air, and livestock found mutilated in bizarre patterns. Survivors spoke of scholars arriving in the dead of night, carrying bundles of old parchment and chalk markings traced in runes and blood. One of the most chilling files uncovered after the war described Case 943A, in which a woman in Bavaria was allegedly abducted by the SS after claiming her grandmother had taught her an ancient protective spell. She was taken to a secluded castle for study. Her fate was never recorded, but the notes left behind described her as genetically promising, and marked her with a symbol of the Irminsul, an ancient Germanic world tree, revered as a conduit between realms. Himmler's personal library included books on astrology, alchemy, necromancy, and ancient Sumerian texts. He believed time was not linear, but cyclical, and that with the right ritual, one could align themselves with the eternal Aryan current, a mythical energy source connected to the earth and stars. He also subscribed to the theory that ancient witches were clairvoyants, able to see across dimensions. Project Hexenhammer was a machine designed to extract that hidden ability and inject it into the SS. Wewelsburg Castle, the spiritual heart of the SS, was the site of many such experiments. Beneath its towers was a chamber known only as Die Schwarzkammer, the Black Room. Lit by a single flame and surrounded by 12 stone seats, it was used for what records call ancestral communion sessions. SS officers were instructed to fast, chant, and enter trance-like states for hours. One report claims an officer entered the chamber, recited a lost Nordic prayer, and then began to speak in a language no one could identify. He later claimed to have spoken with a woman of the stars, who told him, "We are waiting for your return." Even more terrifying are references to the 13th Codex, a book reportedly bound in human skin and written entirely in Proto-Germanic runes. Said to be a translation of spells passed down from a witch burned in 1592, it disappeared from the archive before the Allies arrived. Rumors persist that it was recovered by Soviet agents and is still kept under lock in a Russian vault labeled Subterranean Threat, Class V. Historians have long debated whether Himmler truly believed he could weaponize the occult, or if he was simply indulging in delusions. But the funding, the manpower, and the secrecy surrounding Project Hexenhammer were very real. As the war drew to a close, Himmler became more obsessed, even desperate. One witness, a former secretary, claimed he believed that a final ritual could reverse the outcome of the war. In April 1945, as Berlin crumbled, Himmler ordered all documents related to the Hexen Sonderauftrag to be burned. Some were, but others were taken by Allied and Soviet intelligence, buried in vaults, or simply vanished. After the war, many of the key SS officers connected to the witch files disappeared or died under strange circumstances. One, who had been captured by the Soviets, was reportedly working on an energy resonance device when he was found dead in his cell, his body surrounded by ashes in the shape of runes. In the years since, whispers about Project Hexenhammer have resurfaced among occult circles, conspiracy theorists, and secret historians. Some believe fragments of the knowledge gathered were integrated into Cold War psychic experiments. Others claim that certain bloodlines once targeted by the Nazis were not victims, but survivors of ancient traditions Himmler had desperately tried to control. The truth may never be fully known. But behind the militaristic efficiency of the Nazi regime was a shadow operation rooted in superstition, mysticism, and a hunger for something older than history. Something dark. The Spear of Destiny and the Fall of Empires. It was encased in glass and steel, locked behind alarms in the Hofburg Museum in Vienna, but for those who believed in its legend, no barrier could obscure its power. The Spear of Destiny, also known as the Holy Lance, was said to have pierced the side of Christ during his crucifixion. But for centuries, the spear was more than just a religious relic. It was a weapon of empire, a cursed artifact said to grant invincibility to whoever possessed it, and doom to any who lost it. In March 1938, as Hitler's forces entered Austria during the Anschluss, his first stop in Vienna was not a military garrison or political office, but the Hofburg Museum. Within hours, the spear had been removed and secretly transported to Nuremberg. Most considered this an act of historical vandalism, but those close to Hitler knew the truth. He had coveted the Spear of Destiny since his teenage years. Long before he became Führer, Hitler had stood before the glass case housing the lance, transfixed. Later in Mein Kampf, he would describe this period of his life as one of great awakening. But where did this belief come from? The spear's history is as fractured as it is ancient. Charlemagne was said to have carried it into battle, never defeated, until he dropped it just before his death. The Holy Roman emperors considered it a symbol of divine right. Napoleon tried to seize it, but failed. The Habsburgs guarded it as one of the three great relics of Christendom. And for Hitler, the spear wasn't merely sacred, it was the axis of power around which world domination could turn. Once the spear was in Nazi hands, it was hidden beneath Nuremberg Castle, in a fortified vault. Himmler ordered his Ahnenerbe, an SS archaeological division, to conduct a complete esoteric analysis of the artifact. Their research notes, fragments of which were recovered after the war, claimed the lance had been infused with an energy field during Christ's final breath. One chilling document titled Thule Energetics Protocols claimed the lance could be used as a key to awaken ancestral memory in Aryan blood. Another posited it had once belonged to gods before men. In 1940, Hitler reportedly authorized Project Morgenlicht, or Morning Light, an attempt to use the spear in combination with ancient runestones and sound resonance chambers beneath Wewelsburg Castle. The plan was to create a kind of supernatural control center, one that could, according to Himmler's vision, rewrite the fate of nations by attuning with the energies locked inside sacred artifacts. Allied intelligence later dismissed these claims as wartime paranoia, but they noted a strange fact. Every room containing the spear or connected to its experiments was lined with thick layers of lead, materials typically used for containing radiation. As the war turned against Germany, Hitler's behavior regarding the spear grew erratic. According to one of his valets, he would ask to see the relic alone and often emerged pale, sweating, and speaking cryptically of voices and visions. One time, he reportedly whispered, "It's not a tool, it's a warning." In early 1945, as Allied forces closed in on Nuremberg, Hitler ordered the spear be relocated. But the convoy never made it out. American troops discovered the vault in April, just days before Hitler's suicide, and recovered the spear along with several other Nazi-looted relics. Some reports claim that General Patton, deeply interested in military history and mysticism himself, ordered the artifact to be isolated from all personnel. It was returned quietly to the Hofburg Museum in 1946. Then came the whispers. Hitler died days after losing the spear. Napoleon had done the same. The Habsburg Empire collapsed shortly after misplacing it during wartime transport. Even Charlemagne's own demise followed shortly after he allegedly mishandled the artifact. Whether coincidence or curse, every man who held the spear for long fell, spectacularly. But the story doesn't end in Vienna. In the 1980s, during a private reconstruction of Nazi occult archives, a man named Dr. Otto Kramer, a former archivist for the Ahnenerbe, claimed that the spear returned to Austria was a forgery, a copy kept in the museum as a decoy. The real spear, he claimed, had been split in two during ritual experiments in 1943. One half was taken east by fleeing SS officers. The other, sealed in a Siberian cave near Irkutsk, entrusted to Soviet psychic researchers. Both halves were supposedly engraved with unique runic codes designed to resonate only when joined. This theory was dismissed until a shocking discovery in 2003. During a mining excavation near the Russian city of Krasnoyarsk, workers unearthed a chamber lined with Nazi emblems and German-language inscriptions. Among the artifacts recovered was a steel shard embedded in a stone plinth, its shape eerily consistent with the tip of a Roman lance. Russian authorities sealed the site within 24 hours. The shard was never displayed to the public. To this day, historians argue over the authenticity of the Hofburg spear. Some claim it's a medieval copy, crafted for legitimacy. Others believe it's the real thing, but devoid of power. And then there are those, the few, the hidden, who insist the spear of destiny was never meant to be held by mankind at all. A chilling footnote appears in a Vatican document dated 1947. If the spear is whole, the war is never truly over. The Ghost Train of Breslau. In the final months of World War II, chaos reigned across Eastern Europe. Cities crumbled under relentless bombardment, Nazi officers fled en masse, and convoys full of stolen gold, paintings, and priceless relics vanished into smoke. Among these was a train that would become one of the most enduring wartime legends, the Ghost Train of Breslau. The city of Breslau, modern-day Wrocław, Poland, was one of the last German strongholds in the east. In January 1945, as the Soviet Red Army advanced, the Nazis declared it a fortress city, refusing to surrender. Civilians were evacuated, while the SS, Gestapo, and Wehrmacht fought in the ruins. In the middle of this chaos, a heavily guarded military train was assembled at a private siding deep within the Breslau rail yards. Unlike other transports, this train didn't carry troops or wounded, it carried secrets. According to recovered SS documents, the train was registered under the code name Götterdämmerung, Twilight of the Gods. Its manifest was sealed under Reich secrecy protocols, but scattered testimonies from captured personnel hinted at its contents. Bars of gold, crates filled with Renaissance paintings looted from Warsaw and Krakow, and strange devices marked with esoteric runes. One informant referred to black boxes containing vortex schematics, while another mentioned scrolls bound in iron and sealed with wax sigils. But what truly set the Götterdämmerung train apart wasn't what it carried, it was where it was going. Its destination was the Owl Mountains, a mist-laced range in Lower Silesia riddled with mines, tunnels, and forests older than any map. Under the codename Project Reese, Giant, the Nazis had begun carving vast underground bunkers into the mountains. Officially, these were meant to serve as military factories and command centers. Unofficially, there were darker purposes. Allied aerial surveillance showed no signs of smoke, yet the lights beneath the mountain flickered day and night. The train departed Breslau on the night of February 28, 1945. Eyewitnesses said it moved without headlights, guarded by black uniformed SS units wearing insignias rarely seen before, symbols associated with the Ahnenerbe and Black Sun Division. It passed through Wewelsburg, then simply disappeared. Soviet troops arrived days later and took control of the rail lines. No trace of the train, its passengers, or its cargo was ever officially recorded again. But the whispers began immediately. Local villagers spoke of strange noises echoing from the mountains, deep grinding sounds like gears shifting far underground, or chimes that vibrated the air despite no wind. Animals refused to enter certain forested paths. Miners who ventured near old shafts claimed to see shadows moving against stone walls. One swore he heard voices speaking in a language he couldn't identify. Another collapsed after finding a tunnel wall scorched with a perfect triangle burned into the rock. The Soviets conducted secret excavations in the Owl Mountains throughout the late 1940s. Witnesses claim they removed train tracks by hand, examined soil with Geiger counters, and sealed off entire tunnel networks with concrete. When Polish authorities eventually resumed control of the region, they found many shafts flooded, blocked, or collapsed, yet evidence of enormous construction remained. Reinforced doorways, ventilation systems, massive generator housings rusted in silence. Then came the gold train rumor in the 1970s. A former Wehrmacht officer, on his deathbed in Argentina, claimed that a Nazi train carrying dangerous cargo had been sealed inside a tunnel near Wewelsburg with remote detonated explosives. The officer said the cargo included not just gold, but a prototype dimensional engine, a device allegedly developed in the later phases of the war by a rogue SS physics division. Based loosely on the work of Austrian inventor Victor Schauberger, the engine was designed to manipulate gravity, perhaps even space-time itself. In 2015, Polish authorities received credible reports from treasure hunters using ground-penetrating radar, signs of a large metallic structure buried beneath a hillside near an old train line. Military cordons were quickly set up. Excavation teams arrived, but nothing was ever officially found. Still, locals reported strange disruptions in radio signals, GPS failures, and drones crashing inexplicably when flying over the site. Several former Soviet documents later leaked to the public contained ominous references to Train 4777 Delta, listed as culturally and existentially non-compliant, and marked for containment priority. One document even described the primary anomaly as non-material cargo. Conspiracy theorists and paranormal researchers have since speculated wildly. Was the ghost train carrying not gold, but an object or entity not meant for this world? Some point to Project Reese as more than a military operation, perhaps a temple, built not for defense, but for awakening something buried beneath the earth. Others suggest the train was a decoy, and that the Real experiment succeeded in opening a tear in reality. Survivors of the era, now few and elderly, often go quiet when asked about the train. One woman, the daughter of a station master, told a journalist, "The train didn't vanish. It arrived. Just not here." And there are those who claim the train can still be heard. On certain nights, when the mist rolls low across the Owl Mountains, some hikers report hearing the distant rumble of wheels on rails, long after the last train has passed. A hollow, echoing whistle through the trees. Not approaching. Not departing. Just circling. The ritual at Wewelsburg Castle. Standing alone in the quiet hills of Westphalia, Germany, Wewelsburg Castle looms like a frozen monument to a dream twisted into nightmare. Most visitors see only a Gothic fortress, tall towers, black stone walls, narrow corridors winding like veins. But beneath the floorboards, past the echo of tour guides and souvenir counters, lies a darker truth. For during the height of Nazi power, Wewelsburg wasn't just a castle. It was a temple. A site chosen and redesigned by Heinrich Himmler to be the spiritual heart of the SS, and the location of a ritual meant to alter the fate of mankind. Construction began in earnest in 1934, when Himmler signed a 100-year lease on the crumbling structure. Inspired by Arthurian legends, ancient Germanic mythology, and the occult theories of the Thule Society, Himmler envisioned Wewelsburg as the Camelot of the Third Reich. But unlike Camelot, this round table was set for warlocks, not knights. The castle was remodeled according to precise numerological and astrological principles. It was centered around a massive chamber now known as the Obergruppenfürzel, a vast circular hall with 12 granite pillars and a sunwheel pattern embedded in its black marble floor. This was the Black Sun, a symbol with 12 radial arms, said to channel energy from the Earth's core and bind it to the eternal Aryan spirit. Here, Himmler planned to gather 12 elite SS generals to form his own dark round table. Each pillar represented one of them. In the center he would sit, not as king, but as medium. But the renovations above ground were nothing compared to what was being built beneath. Below the castle lay a chamber known only as Die Gruft, the crypt. Accessed by a spiral staircase and sealed with a thick iron door, the room was lined with thick stone walls. At its center, a circular depression in the floor contained what appeared to be a large, unlit brazier. A bronze sun-wheel symbol sat beneath it, blackened with age and soot. A dome above the room was designed to funnel sound downward. It was not for defense, nor comfort. It was for amplification, of chants, voices, or something else. What exactly occurred in the crypt remains obscured by conflicting accounts and destroyed records. However, scattered documents and post-war interrogations offer chilling clues. In late 1944, with Allied forces closing in and the Reich unraveling, Himmler reportedly ordered the launch of Ritual Phase 5, a last-ditch effort to invoke powers beyond human comprehension. The plan, according to recovered fragments of the Wewelsburg working manuscripts, was to channel what was described as primordial resonance, to awaken what they called the Aryan archetype, a metaphysical entity or force believed to be buried deep in the racial unconscious of mankind. The ritual was to involve 12 SS officers, selected not only for loyalty but for bloodline purity, occult aptitude, and symbolic birthdates. Over a period of 12 nights, they would meditate, fast, and undergo a form of ancient Norse ordeal, physical pain, sleep deprivation, and sensory isolation, before entering the crypt. Once inside, they were to chant from the Edda Codex, a reconstructed Proto-Germanic text spliced with fragments from the Voynich manuscript and a rare Sumerian tablet stolen from the Baghdad Museum in 1937. The final ceremony was set for the spring equinox of 1945. But something went wrong. A captured SS courier, interrogated by British intelligence weeks after the war, spoke of the ritual being interrupted by screams. He claimed the officers were locked inside the crypt for hours before the doors were thrown open by panicked guards. One man was dead, his face contorted in terror. 2 others were missing. The survivors were silent, either unwilling or unable to speak. One simply repeated the same phrase over and over, "We are not alone beneath the stone." The castle was evacuated days later, and orders were given to destroy much of the interior. But they were only partially carried out. American troops entered Wewelsburg in early April and found the upper halls stripped, but the crypt intact. What they found disturbed them. The brazier still smoldered with cold ash, deep claw-like gouges marked the stone around the central sunwheel, and a metallic humming was faintly heard, though no equipment was running. In an internal report labeled Classified X-Black, one American officer noted, "There is a distinct, lingering energy in the lower halls. Not mechanical. Not electrical. Something else." After the war, the Allies buried much of the evidence. The black sun symbol was dismissed as a mere decorative motif. The crypt was sealed, the documents scattered, and Wewelsburg was returned to civilian use. But whispers remained. Tourists and night watchmen have long reported strange occurrences in the basement. Sudden cold spots, whispers echoing from sealed walls, and in one case, a tour guide who fell unconscious while standing in the center of the sunwheel. The most unsettling rumor comes from a former CIA agent who, under anonymity, claimed that remnants of the ritual were recovered and studied in secret under Project MKUltra. He insisted that the SS weren't just trying to contact something, they did. Something beyond names. Something not meant to be summoned. Today, Wewelsburg stands open to the public, a museum for those curious about Nazi occultism. The crypt can be visited, though only under strict supervision. But when you walk into that room, and your footsteps echo against the ancient stone, there is a moment, a fraction of a second, when time seems to thin. The walls breathe, the floor hums, and something, far beneath, listens. Every case adds a new layer of mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Which one lingers in your mind, and what's your take on what really happened?